No, tú dime cómo y ya está. ¿Cómo te parece?
A ver, yo normalmente al moderador lo pondría a un lado.
Muy bien. Perfecto.
Por orden, ¿no?
Como queráis.
Yo pensaba que el trono iba a ser para ti. Pues parece ser que no.
No way.
Claro, yo me estoy diciendo que normalmente de la lectura. Yo pondría eso, pondría al moderador a un lado.
Muy bien.
Y casi ya, pues.
Por orden, ¿no?
De todo y poder ver a todos también.
Vale.
Y el resto, pues sentados.
Mira, te toca el trono.
Hay que orden de todo.
¿Estáis guardando?
Si es por orden alfabético,
Pues,
creo
no,
que sí.
alfabético,
Sí,
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 a ver.
Si es por orden alfabético, te toca el trono, Pedro.
Está los micrófonos. No sé si.
Sí, yo también.
No nos han
por ahí.
dicho nada.
Yo también, es que sin las notas, bueno,
No sé si queda mal, pero...
no se va. No las lleva.
Tienes que dar un cojincito. Porque si no se me ve el cuello.
¿Compartís vosotros esos dos o bueno, cómo estamos? Es un poco raro, y como somos 6 y 4 micrófonos, es un poco raro.
Son de la niña Vicente Gemma.
Sí, vale.
Yo lo que voy a hacer.
Joder.
Porque es que si no.
Sí, lo que pasa es que...
Yo no puedo traer notas porque me
No,
tengo
no,
que
ya, pero que te sientes al borde, se hunde.
¿Sabes lo que pasa? Que
Si me atasco, ya está.
Yo es que si las notas me siento un poquito...
sobre todo lo
Es
de la
que te da como seguridad tenerlo.
con
Ay, verdad,
máquinas y
verdad.
máquinas.
Sí, pero yo desde que perdí, bueno, esto es por la edad, que os den este tipo de gafas y eso, vamos, me tenía que
Sí, sí, lo sabemos.
y tampoco en plan de por unas notas de unas notas así, no te
Oye, sí, tiene una cosa.
Vale.
Voy a sentarme sobre esto. Pero
Yo
que
me he
acabo-
sentado en la mochila, no es
Al contrario,
No,
yo
porque
veo
es que
mal
se
de
te clava
lejos,
la-
pero
la-
lo saca
la-
perfectamente. Sí.
Es lo contrario, sí.
¿Tú
crees?
Sí, la mayoría de la gente sabe.
Eres
No, bien,
hipermiope, ¿no? Yo soy
No, soy miope.
miope, soy yo
pero
soy
bueno, entonces,
Oye, lo que hay que hacer, lo que
No,
hay
lo
que
mío
hacer
está
para llegar a
cansado,
final es
sí.
edad.
40 grados.
Compartimos
Sí, compartimos. ¿Esto se mueve? No se mueve, ¿no? Sí, se mueve. Cualquier cosa nos la acercamos un poco.
Cuando me deis la luz verde, empezamos.
¿Estáis ya?
Tenemos luz
Estoy
verde.
vacunada ya, para tu tranquilidad. Yo estoy vacunada ya, tengo dosis completa.
Buenas tardes. Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Let's take our seats. Thank you very much for being here. Muchas gracias a todos por haber venido al primer acto realmente abierto al público during this International Space University Space Studies Program 2021 that, as you know, has brought to Granada probably more than 100 space professionals or future space professionals altogether, if we look at everyone who will be coming here from late June to late August. My name is Juan de Dalmau, and I serve as president of the International Space University. It is my pleasure to give a very, very big thank you to our invited speakers who have come from different parts of Spain to talk to us today on purpose. And this is especially remarkable in the current times. So I'm sure there will be a very, very loud applause at the end for our guests. And also for those who are hosting us here. And it's really a great pleasure to see that today all 4 members of the SSP 21 local organizing committee in Granada are sitting with us. It's an honor to have you all here. Thank you very much. Now, I've been advised that one of the LOC members, Carlos Entrena, will be the last speaker, if you agree. Carlos, thank you for giving us the conclusions at the end of the event. And this will be at about 9:30. After 9:30, please stay together, stay with us. There is more to come, there is a surprise. So Carlos Entrena will be the last speaker, but let me introduce the first speaker, who will then take us into a journey through the Spanish landscape of the space industry. His name is Ricardo Martí-Fluxà. I will tell a little story about what Ricardo was doing in 1993. And you might be asking, why 1993 if I was not even born? I'm sure some of us were not born in 93. But what was happening at NASA in 93 is that a famous scientist named Gerald Soffen, or Jerry Soffen, he was famous because he had been leading the Viking missions to Mars with orbiters and landers. That's why Jerry Soffen was famous. And he discovered that the International Space University was an interesting place where people could become the leaders of space activities around the world. But he also saw that maybe he could do something to make it accessible to more people who could maybe not attend the ISU, who would be less privileged. And he had the idea of founding the Space Academy, the NASA Space Academy. Maybe some of you, if you are familiar with it, or maybe one of you has participated in the NASA Academy, that is similar to the ISU, always in a NASA center. It is 10 weeks long, and it is multidisciplinary. So it has one of the 3 I's, interdisciplinary. It has less of the international and intercultural. But in the honor of Jerry Soffen, we do have these public talks during every SSP. So this is the tradition, and I'm happy that tonight we're having the Jerry Soffen Memorial panel about the space industry in Spain. So I promised I would tell you about Ricardo Martí-Fluxà and what he was doing in '93 while Jerry Soffen was founding the NASA Academy. Well, if I'm not mistaken, Ricardo, in those years, you were working as someone who has studied law and diplomacy, both studies in Madrid. And in '93, you were already quite high in your professional trajectory. You were head of protocol of the Spanish Royal House, among many other responsibilities that you have had as a lawyer, as a diplomat, but also as someone who has been the chairman of many boards of many organizations in Spain, both private and public. So you could talk to us for hours, but you have accepted to talk to us only about space. So how can a lawyer and a diplomat talk to us about space? Well, personally, I remember Ricardo when he was chairing the board of a Spanish company called ITP, which manufactures turbines for aircraft. So that dates back to some years. So Ricardo, you have been in the aerospace industry for some years, quite a few, but as a diplomat, what I found very interesting is that the Spanish government has sent you as a diplomat to different countries, including Kenya, the United Kingdom, and the United States. And then you made it to really very high in the Spanish government as Secretary of State for Security. Today, I think you're enjoying the chairmanship of the Spanish Space Industry Association, TEDAE, but you're also finding time to chair other non-profit organizations like museums, very big museums in Spain, and art foundations. So with this, Ricardo, I will give the microphone to you so that you can really take us to a wonderful journey with the speakers who really have a lot to tell us.
Thank you, Juan, for your very, very kind introduction. I am indeed really thrilled to be here today. As you know, I have now my current position as well as the chairman of the Spanish Association of Defense, Security, Aeronautics, and Space. And really, we are really proud to participate in this year the Space Studies Program of the International Space University. It's not the first time. I mean, we had this space studies program in 1994, I mean, nearly 1993, 1994, in the Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona, and as well later on, I think in 2008, with the Politècnica of Barcelona. Anyway, I would like to express as well my thanks to the organization for the invitation, to the students who want to be part of this event, and whom we could describe as a space university family. And here we share, I share the floor this afternoon with several people that have been enjoying this kind of tuition, and they have participated in the university. But well, I am perfectly aware that this family is growing every single year, and this university continues to elevate the level of its program and its speakers. For those of us who work in the space industry and who enjoy the advances in this sector, it is really an honor to be here today, so that our companies, the Spanish companies, can share their expertise. Now, I'm going to name the companies that will be part of the subsequent roundtable and that will briefly, and for 5 minutes, present themselves. First of all, we have Airbus, Defense and Space Spain, with Mar Fernández-Lisbona. After, we have CRISA, there is a part of the Airbus group with Mar López-Cotarelo. After that, we are going to have GMV, Mr. Pedro, Schoch. After that, as well, Hispasat with Esther, Riobo, and finally, Aerospace with Yanina, Hallak. So, just after all, I give the floor to Martí-Fluxà to give us, let's say, an overview of what is her company and what Airbus does here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the organization, to the International Space University for inviting me back. I was going to say, gee, it's great to be back home. Gee, it's great to be back to ISU. I really enjoyed my stay back in the summer session in 1990, together with Pedro, by the way. And since then, it's been a long way. It's been a long way since 1990, huh? So I had just graduated as an aerospace engineer from Parks College of St. Louis University in 1989. And I joined Construcciones Aeronáuticas, the old Casa Espacio, today Airbus, in 1989. And in 1990, I was happy and very lucky to be sent by the company to this Toronto summer session, which I really enjoyed. And it's funny because later on in the years, I found many colleagues through my career. In fact, one of my first French bosses was in the same summer session as myself. Nowadays, my French boss, Alain Wagner, which I adore, was also an ISU alumni. So later on, you will see many people who's been attending ISU and is still participating in space activities. Why? Because we are space freaks. We like space. Why wouldn't we here? We love space. So, as I said, I've been working for Casa Espacio, nowadays Airbus, Defense and Space, for 32 years now. As the big company, you probably know, it's one of the largest companies in the world, especially the biggest in aeronautics and space in Europe. We deliver all sorts of satellites. We have many satellites in orbit, still building some more. We give services for telecoms, for observation, and so many things. But in Spain, I have to say that we do very interesting things too. We are capable now of delivering complete satellites. We've delivered already a radar satellite, very advanced with a versatile synthetic aperture radar. Is giving marvelous images right now from space since 2018. PATH, the PATH satellite, it means peace in Spain, by the way. We have also delivered, and it's in orbit, Cheops. Cheops is a small mission of the European Space Agency for characterizing outer planets, exoplanets. And also we delivered, unluckily, the optical satellite Ingenio. It had a launcher failure we didn't have the luck to see how was it operating in orbit. However, it was qualified on Earth, so in ground, so it was working perfectly. And right now we have won another contract for the Copernicus missions, the land surface temperature mapping mission, and we're right now working on it. Besides that, we work for launchers. We deliver structures, composite structures of the upper part of the launchers, Ariane 5, Ariane 6, Vega, and Vega C. We've been working for Ariane since the beginning of the program, since Ariane 1, because in Spain, we started space activities back in 1960s, even if you don't believe it, with some rocket sounding payloads, and very soon in the 1973 Intasat. Minisat was also built by INTA and with CASA as a platform prime back in 2003, and it's been working for many years already. And we also participate a lot in ESA missions, for example, with the soil moisture gradometer, the SMOS mission, which is still working further on to its operations, the initial operations. And I don't know if I'm already on time, if I've spent my 5 minutes.
Thank you, yes. I'm going to be the bad guy this afternoon. I mean, so please be very, very, very strict with the 5 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark. You have the floor now.
Thank you. So I am also called Mar, as you may have heard. In this case, is Mar López. I am working. I am working for CRISA since quite a long time now. At CRISA, we do electronics for onboard applications. We do electronics for launchers and satellites. So we do deliver equipment. What has been my career, I studied physics a long time ago, because I've been working at CRISA already for more than 20 years. And when I came to ISU as an alumni, it was in 1995, so a little bit later than Mar and Pedro, though I don't think I'm younger. And at the time, I was working at the European Space Agency, who actually paid for my tuition there, and I was extremely happy to attend. It was a great experience, and I hope this experience will also be the same for you, and you will enjoy this summer. Take the profit of it. It's an excellent opportunity for all. Okay, at CRISA we have been working with space electronics for more than 30 years, so it's not a new company. We are not a big company, we are not a small company. Nowadays we are about 450 people, starting from 10 people who started the company in 1985. When I joined, we were already 125. So you can see we have been growing to a stable number. As Ricardo mentioned at the beginning, we are part of the Airbus group. And since 2015, our company is part of the Spacecraft Equipment Organization from Airbus. What I do myself there is market intelligence and customer processes for the whole of spacecraft equipment electronics within Airbus. A little bit of, for you to know what has been the story. We have been working since the beginning of the company. It was our first contract for the Ariane program, very much like what Mark just mentioned for Airbus. This has been a very important program for us, and we have worked through the years. We still keep working for Ariane through all its developments, and it has been the basis for our profit and our growth. We have been developing our manufacturing innovations based on what we have been delivering for this program. Later on, we've been working for most of the ESA science and exploration missions. We like to say that there is a piece of CRISA hardware in every corner of the solar system. Just to give you a little bit of an idea, we do large pieces of equipment, we do small pieces of equipment. Two of our larger ones are nowadays managing the engines, the electrical propulsion engines that are driving Bepi on its way to Mars. So we are helping this wonderful spacecraft to reach the end of its journey in 7 years from now. The smaller ones, very much like your smartphones. Nowadays, we have 112 of them in the focal plane of Gaia, and they are helping build the largest map of the stars we've known till today. So this for all times. And what about what's new? What is what we are planning to do now? For us now, we are facing very, very big, challenging times, and what we think are big opportunities for us as well. We have started to work with the electrical subsystem of the Hallak module for the Artemis station, you know, this NASA program. We are also developing technology that will allow us to deliver two very important units for the Mars return sample orbiter, so the power electrical propulsion unit and the power distribution unit. And we are also working with developing a very, very challenging platform for telecommunications that Airbus is building. This is called OneSat, and we are delivering there another power unit. So this is what we are seeing as the most important and challenging programs for our future. And at the same time, we are working through a wide company culture change. We are digitalizing our end-to-end processes and are working on changing the way we relate to one another during our daily work in more flexible ways and in more flexible ways, aiming to give us a better way about collaborating with one another in the company.
Thank you very much. You have been extremely, punctual. So now, Pedro, Schoch, I give you the floor.
Thank you, Ricardo, and thank you to the University of Granada and to ISU for having us here. We're really glad, in particular, myself, along with the other ISU SSP alumni. It's great to be back, and it's great to see that the legacy keeps going on, and well, as Mark had before, make the best of all of this opportunity, because this is really a good opportunity. What is GMB? GMB is a global corporation which has about 2,300 employees worldwide, with revenues of about 260 million euros. We were initially a space company, and that is still very much in our DNA. And but over the years, and that is important, and I will refer back to this idea in other questions. Over the years, we have been transferring technology to other areas and other markets of activity, and also we've been applying space technology and space applications to other sectors which might benefit from it. That has only also allowed us to expand the company beyond space and to serve other markets and to really have an impact on the daily lives of people here on Earth for the moment. Maybe in some years, some decades later, we can even have some impact on people on other planets as well. What is it, the technology that we transferred and allowed us to go into other markets, for example, defense and now homeland security, also in aeronautics, in healthcare, in transportation and automobile, in cybersecurity, and in IT in a general sense, providing services to different verticals like bank and financing and government and big corporations and telecoms and so forth. But since we're in ISU, I'll be talking a bit more in detail about our space activities. GMB does a lot of activities in the space market. We cover, well, our main activities are in the ground segment, also in the flight segment, in operations. We do a bit in that as well. And we also are active in the space applications market and in the navigation. What is it exactly that we do in the ground segment? Well, in the ground segment, we do several things. One of the things that we do, we're very a reference and a world leader is in ground control centers. As we speak, 40% of the SATCOM satellites which have been launched over the past 10 years are controlled with GMB technology worldwide. Also, in those satellite control centers involve the different systems which we provide, which is the satellite control center, the flight dynamics system, the mission planning system, the ground station control monitoring system, and the payload monitoring system. And so that's one of the main areas that we have been managed to get a leadership position. And the other things that we do in the ground control, in the ground segment, are data processing systems. We do process science data, Earth observation data, mainly, and then we also provide mission control centers for science. That is downstream. That is upstream. In the downstream part of the ground segment, we are very much involved in space applications, be it technology which is coming from space platforms used for Earth applications, for example, critical infrastructure protection, monitoring environments, monitoring of agriculture and forestry, also urban development and urban deployment. Also, we are involved in fleet management, vehicle localization. All these technologies are combining space technologies, mainly GNSS systems for localization, telecommunications for communication, and Earth observation data. And with that, we can serve a lot of markets. We're also involved in operations. We have employees working hand in hand with staff from different space organizations and companies. We also have are very much involved in the flight segment as well, which we provide spacecraft subsystems, mainly onboard software and GNC, guidance, navigation, and control systems. We're also providing support and expertise in engineering, algorithms for navigation, simulators, AOCS. Last but not least, we're very much involved in the navigation systems. As a company, GMB is one of the leader of the Spanish market in providing support and developing both EGNOS, the precursor of the Galileo system, and the Galileo system. And we're also involved in the core of the system, the part of the system that processes the navigation signal, and that also guarantees that it is available and it is accurate. So that has given us a profound vision and a profound knowledge of what it entails to what the navigation system what the navigation systems entail, and has allowed us to use this information to expand our company into other markets, as I said in the beginning. What is it that we do with all this? Well, all this has been developed by a team of brilliant people and committed people. Mark said that we're space freaks, and that is true to a certain point. I can tell you that most people, if not everybody in our company, is very much motivated and really has this passion to contribute to the history of space in Spain, in Europe, in the world. And we have systems employees in different continents, the 6 continents, not in Antarctica for the moment, but maybe sometime in the future. And we are, our systems our technology is being employed in close to 500 missions and satellites. 300 of them are operational, 60 of them are in development. But we have a strong legacy of systems where our technology is being a key for these missions. So we are, as I said, deployed systems and solutions across 6 continents. We also are involved in all types of space missions, be it telecom, Earth observation, space exploration, weather satellites, military satellites, the whole array of different applications. And also we are involved in the whole process, from the design phase, feasibility phase, development, validation, verification, implementation, deployment, operations. So as a company, we cover the whole range, the full range in terms of of activities you can do, and then subsectors within the space market. And so with that,
thank you. Thank you, Pedro. Now, Esther from Hispasat. Esther, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Ricardo. Thank you very much to ISU, to University of Granada, and TEDAE for inviting us, Hispasat and me, to be present at this very interesting panel. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, as Ricardo said, my name is Esther Riobo. I work at the Regulatory and Orbit Spectrum Resource team at Hispasat. We basically take care of licensing. We get the licenses that our satellites need to operate, and also we ensure that Hispasat has the rights of use for the orbit spectrum resources where our satellites are located. As regards Hispasat, Hispasat is the Spanish satellite communications operator. We have more than 30 years of experience in the market. And currently we have a fleet of 9 geostationary satellites located at 6 orbital positions, of which we hold the rights of use for 4 of them. We have premises in Spain, Brazil, and Peru, as well as commercial presence in most part of the American continent. What we basically do is provide connectivity, connectivity services that help reduce the digital divide. Also, we provide connectivity in the verticals of aeronautical and maritime connectivity, as well as cellular backhaul to help mobile networks, the deployment of mobile networks, especially in rural and difficult to access areas where terrestrial networks have difficulty to access. We also provide video distribution services. At present, we distribute contents for more than 1,300 TV and radio channels. Since its incorporation, Hispasat has been an example of public and private cooperation. We have a 10% of our shareholding that is held by public companies, CDTI, CDT, and CEPI. And the rest of the shareholding, 90%, belongs to the group Red Eléctrica, which in turn also holds a 20% of public participation. Hispasat is also the majority shareholder of Hispasat. Hispasat is a subsidiary of Hispasat that provides communications for governments and defense. And Hispasat in turn also has a 30% of public participation, which is held by the public corporation ISDEFE. Due to that private and public cooperation since its foundation, Hispasat has the calling of being an engine to the Spanish space industry. This calling is present in all our new projects through a program of industrial return that we sign with manufacturers in order to ensure these industrial returns for the Spanish industry. This has resulted in returns of more than 1 billion euros for our industry. Also, we incorporate into our satellites innovative technology in order to help them get the homologation they need to enter the international market. As Hispasat is an engine to the Spanish space industry, we deem that we are fundamental, our participation is fundamental in the sector, and therefore we are also members of TEDAE, not only members, but foundational members, and we are currently present in its executive committee. So I think that is pretty much an introduction to what we do and who we are, and so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ricardo.
Now, finally, Yanina, thank you.
Oops. Okay, thank you, Ricardo. Good afternoon, everyone here, and good afternoon, all the people watching us through the ISU YouTube channel. I am extremely happy to be here. I want to thank Juan and all the ISU family for inviting us and for having me today here. And also the Universidad de Granada for hosting the SSP 21. My name is Yanina Hallak. I did the SSP 18 in the Netherlands, and it was a life-changing experience as I'm pretty sure that it will be for all of you here today and the people that is in Strasbourg and online. Prior to ISU, I got a bachelor and master's in aeronautical engineering, and then I did a Master of Science in Aerospace Engineering at California Polytechnic State University. That is the worldwide known university for being the home of the CubeSats. Right after that, I came to Spain to do my PhD in aerospace engineering, and I'm doing it in the University of Vigo in Galicia. I have co-founded Aerospace a year and a half ago in Galicia. We are based in the northwest coast of Spain, in the beautiful autonomous community of Galicia and the province of Pontevedra. Our company has developed the first Spanish CubeSat deployer, which is not only suitable for low Earth orbit, but also for interplanetary missions due to the things that it has and how it has been conceived. We are 10 people right now, and we're growing. And basically, we are an in-space logistics, and we provide rideshare and dedicated launch services for CubeSat and small sats. All of the members of our team have worked in satellites from a few grams to 3.5 tons. So we are a tiny but mighty team. And well, basically that's us. So yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much to you all. I mean, because I think you have done, I mean, in a very, very short time, extremely good overview of our sector, of what we are able to do, what we are able to perform, and what is our future. And now is my turn to give you a kind of overview of the history of the space industry in Spain. Well, I have to be, I mean, very long time ago, I have to talk about the year 1942, because it was one of the key years in this evolution. Because it was at that very moment when the National Institute for Aerospace Technology, our INTA, was founded. So it's almost 80 years ago. But the impulse generated by its entity in the space, aeronautics, security and defense sectors were really essential to rebuild a country that has been devastated by a very destructive civil war and whose international context in the middle of World War was even worse. INTA self-defined role at that time was, so it was named, the National Agency of Research and Quality Control for Industry. And this is not an exaggerated concept, because its contribution is a contribution that was absolutely paramount, was really essential part of what we are today here in Spain. It is true that for us, our own space race kicked off in the late 50s, early 60s, and two events converged in that period. On the one hand, the International Astronautical Federation, IAF, that held its 7th Congress in Barcelona, and on the other hand, Sputnik 1, the first Russian artificial satellite, was launched into orbit. So this favorable circumstance made scientists and engineers from all over the world take notice of our country, that Spain exists, and Spain existed, and Spain was on the map. And the Spanish government and society in general realized how important it was for Spain to enter the European space sector, for us to become more international. That was the way forward. At that very years, really, Spain was not recognized as a whole in many countries. We had a kind of quite a strange government at that on those years. So to go international through several international, let's say, organizations was a key to, let's say, to progress in many ways. So the progress for a space race went hand in hand with this INTA, which in 20 years became a founding member of the European Space Research Organization, the forerunner of today's ESA, and established a single commanding body in the sector with the creation of the National Space Research Commission in Spain. The collaborative spirit of Spanish companies was already evident back then, when this National Space Research Commission drew up the first national space program. This brought about, just to give you an example, the groundbreaking El Arenosillo Missile Experimentation Center in Huelva, which began as a launch site for sounding rockets. Well, maybe you're aware that some of the highlights from that period include the agreements that Spain entered into with the recently created American NASA to carry out scientific experiments, test and evaluate equipment and techniques, as well as to establish monitoring stations on Spanish soil. This served as an incentive that enabled us to advance technologically and take a position on the international stage. The result of this was the construction of the Madrid Deep Space Complex in Robledo de Chabela that I am aware that you are going to visit in the next few days. But this base was key, absolutely key, to the development of communications in the space missions of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Well, with this as the base, we were preparing for one of the great milestones. In 1974, we were able to launch the first Spanish satellite, Hispasat, with two missions. One scientific, the study of the ionosphere, and the other technological, to investigate the effects that radiation produces on semiconductors. For people of my generation, man's landing on the moon was certainly an unprecedented milestone. A milestone that brought us closer together as human beings. It was some event that put, let's say, all humanity together. And it was a moment of enormous optimism for a society that, like now, faced the future with uncertainty. I still remember vividly when the three astronauts who went on to the moon for the first time visited Spain just a few months later. We had Armstrong, Schoch, and Aldrin on October 1961 in Spain, on a world goodwill tour that would take them to 24 countries to share information about the historic flight and plans for the future space exploration. Just to give you an idea of how important was that visit for Spain, the Spanish authorities at that moment didn't know very well how to deal with that. So they decided that it will be a very good idea to put them in contact with three bullfighters. You're going to ask me, why bullfighters? Well, they thought that the men brave enough as to risk themselves to go to the moon, well, they know, to be in contact with people that were brave enough to be in front of a rusty bull doing strange kind of dances. Well, and every one of the bullfighters gave them one of these special kind of costumes that they wear on the bull ring. So they accepted, and they were very happy working together and talking together for some time. But anyway, the fact is that the arrival of the man on the moon was a great step for Spain, for the world, of course, but for Spain as well, but for our space industry. And not only because of the key role played by your country, the world's most famous mission, but also because the Apollo program demonstrated that investment in space was returning to society in the way of technology. Yes, there has been a lot of water under the bridge since then, but I remember this story fondly. It helps me to remember that we were what we were indeed then, and how much we have progressed and professionalized our work. Well, we now come to the 21st century, which invaluable figures that our business fabric has achieved after significant efforts to improve, innovate, be more prepared and up to date. Adapt to the market, as you have seen, just a few moments ago, and take a leading role in more success stories like the ones the people that share with me this panel mentioned before. Well, until the outbreak of the pandemic, which has shaken the foundations of all industries, our annual growth over the last 5 years average of 10%. We represent the 5th largest space industry in Europe, just behind France, Germany, Italy, and the United Kingdom, which is explained by the enormous technological and qualitative leap that our country has experienced. We have gone from being a supplier of equipment and subsystems to being capable of manufacturing complete satellite systems, to have our own technology, and to be involved in the different stage of the product life cycle, from design to production or maintenance. The 2019 Spanish Space Industry Sector Agenda, a document that really I think is very good for all of us to read, is to learn about our sector today. It's absolutely important for that. And this document indicates that we are the 3rd largest satellite operator of the continent. 70% of satellites have Spanish technology. And what is more, most of the spacecraft orbiting the Earth and navigating the universe include systems, we have been told before, and equipment that were conceived, developed, and manufactured by Spanish industry. It is really wonderful and spectacular, and really I think it's very difficult for anyone from a generation that you started working many, many years ago will be able to tell us that we will be just unable to believe it. Well, let's now go over the pillars on which the Spanish space industry is based today. First of all, public investment. The public investment is essential for the development and strengthening of the sector, as is the case in other countries with thriving space industries. And this discipline in Spain is characterized by its more international and multilateral aspect, since we can say that we are participating industrially, as we have just seen just before, in all of the programs of the European Space Agency that are underway. Before, it was mentioned many programs, but we are involved in KEOPS, SMILE, MTG, PROBA 3, JUICE, BEPI Colombo, Euclid, Solar Orbiter, ExoMars, Mars Sample Return, or HERA, and the Ariane, the Vega, and Space Rider launcher programs, just to give some more examples. And we have seen as well how the European Union promotes programs such as Galileo and Copernicus, all of them for satellite navigation, Earth observation, respectively, SST and Horizon 2020, in which Spain is also participating. And we cannot forget the announcement by the European Commissioner for Internal Market, Thierry Breton, with the proposal for a new constellation of satellites to improve connectivity, which I think is extremely important for all of us. And our companies are firm candidates to do their part in this enormous challenge. Another piece of very good news came in 2020, when the European institution consolidated a budget for the span between 2021 and 2027, the space program of 14.8 billion euros. That is the largest in its history. It's more than necessary in this time that we are suffering now of post-pandemic resurgence. And after the ESA and the European Union, the list of initiatives that look to our space companies would include Spanish initiatives, such as the National Program for Earth Observation by satellites, for instance. And we cannot forget the boost that our companies receive thanks to bilateral and multilateral cooperation programs with NASA, CNES, and Roscosmos, or the national movers like Hispasat, Hisdesat, and INTA. Taking part in these projects helps instill in us a desire to be better, to be these real space freaks, as you were telling you just a second ago, Mar. Because in 20 years, we have quadrupled the number of space-related patents, and about 60% of the world economy depends directly or indirectly on space assets. Our sector is clearly an exporter, Our exports represent 81% of our total turnover. And in addition, in Spain, the production of industrial goods and services, of course, has positive effects on other sectors of the Spanish economy. We are a dual technology that is transferable and enables us to improve communications, positioning, and navigation systems. Being as well at the forefront of technology is not easy and requires continuous recycling and an eagerness to excel. So what are indeed our next steps? Future technologies will advance in terms of digitization, artificial intelligence, photonics, miniaturization, additive manufacturing, or the application of new materials such as graphene and new forms of production such as 3D printings. And our companies are aware of the technological investment required to be at the forefront. And for this reason, they are continuously investing in R&D&I. Another document is the KPMG that we prepared in our organization in TEDAE that includes the data that I have just given you. In 2019, just before the pandemic, we had a turnover of nearly a million euros, which represent a 1.13% contribution to Spain's gross domestic product. After hearing these figures, some of one I have given you badly is €1 million. After hearing these figures, many of you may be wondering about the current situation of our sector in Spain after the shutdown caused by the pandemic. 2020 was a complicated year for all of us, and we have tried to approach it as a challenge. I am proud to represent a group of companies that have made an extra effort to overcome the contingency of the moment, the drop in production, the cancellation or postponement of work. All of them have shown an admirable fortitude, and they have shown a resilience greater than what has been said in other economic sectors. I know it might seem to be a paradox, but it does demonstrate the strength of our sector. We closed 2020 with a record number of satellites launched into space, 1,281, 3 times more than the previous year. Our experience in overcoming adversity has worked really in our favor. Well, we have to face is the challenge we have now in front of us. We have to face the present historical moment together, minimizing the effects of the crisis and seeing it as an opportunity to participate in the transformation of the economic model of the 21st century, which, among other things, will need to be more sustainable and environmentally aware, and will contribute forcibly to the ecological transition. Well, we have an ambitious and comprehensive recovery, transformation, and resilience plan, such as the one Europe has offered us. And we could not be more motivated. Our companies must seize the opportunities to advance the programs, to push the technologies even further, and to bring more stability to space policy. To this end, it would be desirable to have a monitoring group in which our industry will take part. And this group should include not only larger companies, but also SMEs, many of which were represented in TEDAE. For the time being, Spain does not have a Spanish space agency. For now, space-related competencies are distributed among the ministries of Science, Industry, Development and Defense. This project may be closer to becoming reality, as our government has recently shown itself to be in favor of setting up a space agency, a Spanish space agency, which is an aspiration that the sector has had for many years. And the recovery funds will certainly help us in this endeavor. There are several arguments in favor of this public entity that would provide our country with greater coherence in the external dialogue and the action for all the public administration in space matters. Well, we have already mentioned many times this afternoon the benefit of space activity for society in terms of cutting-edge technology, citizen services, quality of life, and its role as an economic engine that brings benefits to the sectors, But thinking of the younger people who are following the conference, it is important to highlight its important role as a generator, as a real generator of stable and quality job opportunities. The space companies consolidate contracts that pass the trial periods into long-term permanent jobs in a much higher percentage than in other sectors. Our sector in Spain employs highly qualified professionals, 72% of whom are university graduates, mostly in STEM disciplines. Aerospace, electrical, electronic, mechanical, telecommunications, software engineering are among the profiles that are in greatest demand and require continuous updating given the dizzy pace of change we are living on. Another point to take into account is that the projects are developed in a highly enriching international context, so the mobility of workers, many European, is high, and the command of languages is valued. Our companies are used to establishing agreements with universities to promote scholarships and internships, to help improve the employability and the excellence, the real excellence of the talent that all of you represent. The doors of our companies are open to you, for you to come and continue your theoretical and practical training, and to get to know in situ how we work here in Spain. We are a leading partner in the major space programs, and we are a guarantee of success for our government in the economy recovery. But we cannot grow in volume and capabilities if we do not have a human team that is up to the task. So we invite you all to be part of it and shape the new gadgets that will be launched into orbit. The level and competition is high, but together, really together, we can achieve it. I would like to end, as I did in my welcome video. To shape a better future, we need to have the most talented people, as you are. Because you are the future of a fascinating industry that will continue to invest in space because it improves life on Earth. Thank you all very much. Well, thank you. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for your applause. And now is the turn for some questions to our people. And I'm going to start with Airbus and with Fernández-Lisbona. A very, very difficult question for her is, how does Airbus see the space market situation right now?
Well, what can I say? Thank you for your question, Ricardo. You all know that the space market is changing. Right now, there's more opportunities for everybody to access space. Some people talk about new space. New space is really changing the business ways to space. It could be with small startups that come with good technology in smaller sizes. It could be with a little bigger satellites, like OneWeb satellites made in Airbus. It could be, what can I say, with Elon Musk doing all sorts of new technologies with launchers, reusability, and all that is new space. But definitely the market in space, we have different markets. We have the institutional market, which is very important. It's the basis for such a strategic sector. Space is a strategic sector, and definitely it needs the support from the administration. Having said that, in Europe, we have the European Space Agency, we have the European Union, we have the national programs. Those, luckily, fortunately, have realized the importance of space, and they keep increasing their contributions, their budgets, which is good. Right now in Spain, we are expecting also the continuity of the Earth observation plan, the national plan. But definitely, like he said about the new budget approved with the European Union of 14-point-something billion euros is quite the basis for the space business. But then the commercial markets, the ones we call commercials, those are based, luckily, for telecom operators like Hispasat, diesel services. That one is changing too. The market is changing because the needs may probably, Esther can speak better about this than myself, but the needs of the users are changing. Youngsters don't watch that much TV, for example. They need all different services right now coming from internet. So the infrastructure has to change, has to be different. So right now, the companies, we are adapting to all these new needs. For example, with having in-orbit reconfigurable payloads, so that right now satellites can be changed their mission from land, from ground, by just changing by software the coverages, for example. And I think that the good thing about giving more opportunities to everybody to access space is going to give more opportunities for the businesses, more to come, to my understanding. We can see, of course, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, with all their initiatives. We can also see Virgin Galactic. I always speak about space tourism. When is space tourism going to be launched, really launched, so that we can fly? I wanted to be an astronaut, and I couldn't be an astronaut. Why can't I just go suborbital flight, for example? Those still have to be growing, and hopefully safeguarding the safety of the people, because that's the main important point. I think that there are good chances for the market to grow into new opportunities, not mentioning the Artemis initiative, back to the moon, going to Mars. I think there are good chances now.
Thank you, Mar. And now to the Mar. Really, we're very interested in all the technological development CRISA has been able to develop over the years. But which is, in your view, the most impacting technological development for onboard electronic economics in the coming years? What do you really expect there?
Well, coming a little bit from what you mentioned, and also something that Mar mentioned, we think that the next challenge is related to the digital disruption. Basically, that's what we think is going to change most of the systems we work in space electronics about. We have been hearing about big data, artificial intelligence. What does it all mean for the development of electronics? What is important in our view for this is the possibility of having full digital control and processing systems within the satellites. You know now that the number of equipment are already digital, but what is really important is to try and digitalize those that are mainly using analogic technologies now. Why? Because by doing this, we will allow the possibility of reconfiguring functions, something about what Mar was talking about, from the ground. And what does this mean? This means that we will be able to provide with flexible and cost-effective equipment and services to our customers. We can change from ground our missions. And if we go on, even in the future, the very same satellites would themselves be able to learn, adapt, and decide how to change during the mission themselves to provide the best services that the customers are expecting on ground. And of course, this is for the future, but we have already started to implement this kind of activities. When we are talking about digital control electronics, this is something we have been using in programs we have been developing together with our colleagues in Airbus, like the active antenna for quantum, which is already a reality. And we are working now in an even more complex and demanding control electronics for the future SpaceSat satellite with a more powerful and complicated antenna that we will work together with. When I was talking about before of our programs and the hardware we are developing for Mars, for the Moon, and for this platform that we are working for with Airbus, we are already putting in there new technologies that have to do with the use of new semiconductor elements like gallium nitride. You may have heard of GaN. We are using GaN transistors, and this allows us to manage high power, high voltage applications that are needed in order to manage smaller sizes of units, more powerful performances. We are already doing all this, and we expect that these technologies that we are developing will come to be a reality in the next units we are going to manufacture.
Thank you. I'm very thrilled, hearing you, because, we have a great expectation, because I'm absolutely convinced that we are on the good way. It's the future that we are talking now. So really, it's very impressive. Pedro, you represent here, a great company, but you are much younger as a company than all the other two that have preceded you. But what has been, you think, the evolution, and maybe what has been the most important milestone for you, from the creation of GMV?
Thank you, Ricardo. Well, GMB, from a small startup company, at that time we didn't call them startups, but in 1985, that's what we were, to a multinational global corporation. From a group of 4 Spanish students to a crowd of employees and partners of about more than 13 different nationalities. From a company which only one contract to a company which has contracts with ESA, NASA, JAXA, CNES, Roscosmos, DLR, and large corporations like Boeing, Northrop Grumman, Airbus, Thales. From a company which had only a very small footprint in Europe, to a company, a corporation which has a global footprint. We as a company have come through that from 1985 to now, through different phases. The first phase, from the 1985 to early 90s, we were a company which was learning, which was bringing up experience and know-how. We were only able to respond to studies and to provide some consultancy. From early 1992 to 2000, we grew, we learned a lot, we kept accepting challenges, we raised the level of responsibility by taking new contracts and difficult challenges. We started to develop, not only responding to studies, but develop our own technology, develop subsystems and parts of subsystems. We started transferring technology from the space sector to other sectors to make our company grow. We, from 2000 to 2015, we started growing our company geographically by acquiring companies or setting new affiliates worldwide. We increased our knowledge, we increased the level of responsibility. We were implementing, developing, and providing full systems. We were integrating ground control centers. We were integrating we were part of system provision in navigation and in Earth observation. We're widening up our reach and objectives within the space sector. We also had our first contract with NASA at that time. It was big time for us, especially for our company, a small group in Spain, space enthusiasts, for which NASA is one. It was a dream at the beginning. Well, 20 years later, we had already been there. And now we are in a position that we're looking for ways to expand. We have a solid position in different areas. We're #1 provider of satellite control centers worldwide. We have a strong position and a leadership in Spain in providing global navigation satellite systems. We're the company with more contracts and revenues coming from EGNOS and Galileo. But we keep expanding, we keep investing, we keep funding with our own R&D and with public R&D money as well. We keep growing. We're still young. We want to grow. We keep looking for new avenues for growth, for new technologies, for new areas. To just mention a few, robotics for us is a new area for growth. And it's going to be both for the space sector and beyond space, also with applications on Earth. So what I'm saying this because this is the opportunity for you. I mean, we have a startup company here, and you have a potential group of people here which might end up also setting up their own startups. So my message here is go for it, do it. And GMB is not the only company which has made it. Although our founder wasn't named Elon Musk, or wasn't named Richard Branson, or wasn't named Jeff Bezos, but our company was named, the founder was Jose Maria Martinez Garcia. And, but then again, he made it, unfortunately he passed away in 2000 and didn't see the full length of and reach of the company that he was founding. But his two daughters took on the challenge, and the company is still kicking and alive and growing. And as one character in one animation feature said, to space and beyond. For us, there's no limits. We're still here. We like challenges, and all of this has been obviously. The ingredients for this is, at least in our case, is to have a clear vision, to strive for excellence, to have a good team of people, to look for challenges and to accept the challenge to overcome these difficulties. Also to really fund yourself with your inputs a lot of into R&D. And to really go for it. And so my message here to you and to your other colleagues in other centers is, if you have an idea, if you have a clear vision, try it and make it happen.
Definitely. It's talent and enthusiasm. These two main factors. Well, I said before that we closed 2020 with a record number of satellites launched into space. The figure that I have seen and that I saw when I was preparing my intervention was 1,281. So it's really, quite impressive. Do you think it's a congestion in outer space, or at least a risk? A clear and growing risk for congestion?
Thank you, Ricardo. Yes, I think that the answer to that question is yes. Space is getting a little bit too crowded for comfort. This is especially true in the low Earth orbits. With the rise of mega constellations, we have already in the news this new mega constellations: Starlink, OneWeb, Amazon's Kuiper, to mention just a few. These constellations are going to operate with thousands of satellites. And this is going to pose a challenge in space. But this is something that also happens in the geostationary orbit. The number of satellites that have been launched to space has been constantly increasing since the 1960s. And satellites provide very important services, very different and important services to the daily life of citizens. So they're going to continue to be launched. That's obvious. ITU, the International Telecommunication Union, has played a brilliant role in allowing the operation of satellites without interference. The challenge is becoming even more complex for ITU in this sense. Also taking into account that some arcs of the geostationary orbit have more demand than others, for example, the North American and the European arcs. On the other side, we have the aspect of space debris, which is any human-made object which is not operational but might pose a risk to objects that are operating in space. In this sense, on the right side, some measures have already been taken. There are several guidelines for space debris mitigation that have been put in place. There is a UN resolution number 67 encouraging member states to adopt space debris mitigation guidelines. Several space agencies have adopted these guidelines. There is a European code of conduct also in this regard. So I think things have been made. That's not to say that there is no need to do more, but things have already been made. And also it is important that we rely on tools like space situational awareness and space surveillance and tracking of space systems. And in addition to this, satellite operators are also very aware of the importance of this. And for example, there is an association, the Space Data Association, to which Hispasat belongs, that is a platform that allows its members to share information about the flight dynamics of its satellites and other sources of information about space objects, and therefore allowed to provide notice and warning services. So I think some things have been already made. There's probably need for more, but well, I'm optimistic. I think we will. There is an awareness of this issue, and I think we will sort it out.
Thank you. Well, Yanina, finally, I mean, really, I mean, you have lots of enthusiasm, you have tons of talent, and you have been brave enough as to do, I mean, to make the necessary steps as to start your own company in Galicia. Mm-hmm. So now, looking into the future, how do you feel? How do you have the feeling of this kind of new space sector in Spain? I mean, tell us as well briefly, how do you feel about doing what you are doing really, going for it, as Pedro was putting it?
Well, thank you. It's a great question, Ricardo. I think that the way I see the new space sector in Spain is like the first time I watched the movie Hidden Figures, where there were a lot of people, women in that case, working, and there were a lot of people that they weren't aware of them. So I think that in Spain there are around 15 new space companies or new space startups doing and providing subsystem level and end-to-end solutions, working in an agile approach without bureaucracy and like with the getting the things done mindset. And I think that the present in the new space it looks good, but I think that the future is even brighter.
Thank you really. I mean now, because I would like to give some time for questions to the audience, but anyway, very, very briefly, I'm going to give you several questions, and I will be very, very grateful if you can answer just in 20 seconds. And I'm going to follow the same order. So, first of all, international cooperation, that myself, I think is absolutely paramount. And can you imagine your company without these collaborations? Ma?
No. In fact, most of our contracts are with international companies. Right now, for example, we are working with the Chinese Academy of Sciences with the joint mission ESA and the Chinese Academy of Sciences SMILE, which studies the interaction of the magnetosphere with the solar wind. And this kind of international cooperation would not be possible. I mean, makes it possible, makes this mission possible, and some good new developments, for example, for CRISA.
CRISA, what do you think?
Well, as I have explained before, our first contract was with Ariane.
Yeah.
That is a program that is run by 9 different countries. So it's run in 9 different countries with 15 different companies. So you need a lot of people, a lot of countries to build these things. We have been able to develop our technology and our capabilities through our participation in the European space program, very much like quite a lot of the Spanish companies all through the years. We have bilateral agreements, NASA, Spain, the United States, Spain, that have allowed us to participate in the Perseverance and Curiosity missions now running on Mars. And as Mark said, most of our activity is with customers that are not in Spain. Just for you to have an idea, about 85% of our revenues come from export customers, customers that are not in Spain. That is a lot.
Yes. Pedro.
Well, nothing much really to add. It is true, but that by its own nature, space has to be international and needs cooperation. That's the way things are done. No single country can do certain projects, and now that things are looking like we're going to finally and eventually go out of the Earth to the Moon and Mars and beyond, we need to collaborate and we need to pull our resources together in countries, companies, and all that. So for that matter, I mean, international cooperation is a must, and it's good. It's extremely good.
Yes. Raquel, you feel the same?
Yes, definitely. From the satellite operator standpoint, its activity cannot be understood without international cooperation. As I mentioned earlier, we work with the Spanish industry, but we also have to engage with international multinationals for launch services, even manufacturing, and the put in operation of our satellites. Also, in the case of Hispasat, we have a 50% of our business, more than 50%, comes from Latin America. And even from a regulatory point of view, we have to have an extensive knowledge of the regulations, national regulations in the countries that we serve, which are a lot, because a single geostationary satellite has coverage over 1/3 of the planet. So it's very extensive coverage in a lot of countries to work with. Also, Hispasat, for example, is a sector member of ITU, the International Telecommunications Union, where it closely follows the regulations affecting or governing satellite services and, of course, the allocation of orbit spectrum resources, which is key to the operation of satellite operators. And we're also members, for example, of international associations advocating for the interests of the satellite industry. So also we work with governments of the countries that we serve in order to develop projects to bridge the digital divide, for example. So in short, the activity of a satellite operator, the activity of Hispasat cannot be understood without international cooperation.
Thank you, Yanina. And you share the same feelings, the importance of cooperation.
Yes, we certainly practice international cooperation. It doesn't matter if you are a big corporation or if you are a small startup. You need other people, other companies. In our case, we have signed a cooperation agreement with DLR, and I told you before that we are just 10 people. They are providing the communication module for our orbital transfer vehicle, but we also work with companies in European countries, like in the Netherlands, in France, and also in the USA, and in India, that it's a growing market.
Thank you. Now, as well, very briefly, because of the time, I mean, the clock is running quickly. What profiles of collaborators you are looking for? I mean, what kind of collaborators you are going to need in the future?
Probably all sorts of subsystems and equipment suppliers. Right now, we're heading towards this kind of new generation of antennas in orbit reconfigurable. We also would like to evolve more in the launchers technology in order to be at the same level as SpaceX, for example. We need to develop a little bit on that, so that kind of specialist would be really welcome.
Yes, CRISA.
Okay, for us, we develop equipment, so we would be looking for electronic engineers, physicists, technicians in this field. But what is really, really important for us is more capabilities that are not specifically linked to a particular field of studies. We need people who have creativity, agility, interest in working in a digital environment to grow. We like people who would be thrilled working in larger teams, even if they are specialized, with the capability to understand what the others bring to the group and to be able to put all that together so we can build the company in the future that we want.
Yes, Pedro, GMV.
Okay, we are obviously looking for STEM people in all areas, all types of engineers, mathematicians, physicists, and so forth. We also have obviously some positions for journalists and accounting and financial department, all that. But since we're in this environment, well, STEM people are really the ones we're looking for. International people, we really like to have an environment in which we integrate different people from different cultures and cultural environments and backgrounds, which can really bring to the table a lot of synergies, because this interchange is pretty good. So, and the other thing that I would like to add is that GMB is the 7th largest employer in the European space market, and is one of the fastest growing companies. And we currently have 162 positions opened, and you're more than welcome to look it up at our website or in LinkedIn.
Raquel, what about Hispasat?
Yes, well, these are exciting times, so satellite operators are also undertaking new paths of growth, such as 5G, Internet of Things, mobility, data analytics, even in a near future, possibly quantum communications. So the profiles that will be needed will be very varied, always oriented towards innovation, in order to remain competitive in the market, which more and more demands state-of-the-art services, robust and efficient services. So I think the profiles will be very varied, very different, but always oriented towards innovation. And I include here legal profile, because I have a legal background, so of course we need the engineers, physicists, etc., but also legal people, a variety of profiles in short.
Thank you. And for your startup,
Yes.
Yanina?
In our case, we are mainly looking for people with interdisciplinary profiles, people that are willing to grow as we grow, and with a broadened skill set, of course. But most important thing that we are looking is have good persons in our team. As I told you before, when you are a small team, if you miss like 1 or 2 people, you may be doing things wrong, like for the 10 or 20% of your team. So it is important to have good persons in the teams.
Thank you. Well, so finally, really finally, I don't want to assume many more questions this afternoon to you all, but what do you like your company to be able to announce publicly in the next 5 years, in your case? Just one headline for each.
The new European launcher and breakthrough technologies in space.
That's good. Now,
Well, for CRISA, what we would really like to announce is that we have been awarded the contract to deliver the power electronics subsystem for the Mars-based transport shuttles.
that's very good. That's indeed very good for you.
GMB technology is key to deploying humans in Mars and the Moon.
Raquel?
In the case of Hispasat, Hispasat has a keen interest in secure satellite communications and a keen interest in the development of quantum communications that is taking place right now. So I think a good headline for us would be Hispasat launches the first quantum geostationary satellite built with Spanish technology.
That's very good as well. Yanina?
Yes. And for us, it would be Aerospace has successfully deployed CubeSats and small sats on moon orbits.
Very good. Thank you. Well, thank you very much to all, to all of you that has been kind enough as to be with us this evening, and we have some time to have some questions from you, if you have any here, or maybe from some of the people that are online. Is there any question? Okay, there is someone. Well, we have several. Okay. Start by number one. Number one? Okay, so it's going to Yanina. What was it like to start a space company coming out of ISU?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Yes. What was it like to start a space company coming out of ISU?
Yeah, it was great. Actually, well, I have, of course, an engineering background, I told you, but I didn't know really too much about business or management or stuff like that. So I joined the Space Management and Business Department, and I think it was the best decision I could ever made because it gave me not only confidence, but I learned a lot. I learned, I think, even more than if I have done an MBA or something like that. So if you're planning to, if that person is planning to start their own company, I encourage him or her to join the Space Management and Business Department.
Thank you. There's another question. This one, I think, is for Pedro. How do you ensure diversity and gender equality in your company?
In our company, we're open to everybody which is valid, has a passion for space, and has something to contribute. We don't deal with private issues or anything. We take everybody. We don't have any problems with that. And we do have an internal policy that handles these particular issues. Yeah. So we are, as a company, we're diverse in race, in diversity of whatever the kind of diversity we're talking about. Yeah, no problem.
There is a question for Airbus. What do you think is the future of large GEO satellite? And do you believe that small GEO is the future of GEO?
Well, it depends on the technology that we need. Definitely, in order to have coverage on Earth from so far away, 36,000 kilometers away, you probably need a lot of power. You probably need big solar panels. You probably need big antennas with high demand on power. So I still see big satellites up there with big antennas, big payloads, and I'm not quite sure whether in GEO a small satellite would do a lot. But still, definitely, technology has to evolve, and in Airbus, we appreciate the good ideas, and we value them, and we encourage them.
Thank you. Now, there's a kind of tricky question. What does it mean to you to be a Spaniard? I don't know if some of you, to be a Spaniard.
To be a Spaniard?
Yes. I don't know if some of you want to ask, or to answer, I mean. If none of you, well, I mean, to be a Spaniard, I mean, it's an enormous honor. I'm extremely proud to be a Spaniard, and I am extremely aware of the huge effort my country has been done over the last 60, 70 years. And I will be trying to convince until the end of my days that really we are, that we are as good outside as we are inside. So to convince abroad the things we have been doing inside Spain. Well, it was my task when I was a diplomat abroad, and now it's my task to promote the Spanish technology sector as aeronautical, space, and defense, and security, of course. And well, I think I'm very proud of our generation, the different generations that have been performing over the last, let's say, 70 years.
May I add something?
Please. I would be very helpful.
Thank you. Well, I have developed my career for the first 9 years working in the European Space Agency. So as a Spaniard, I've worked in an international environment from the time I finished my studies till, as I said, when I was 33. I have never had any difficulty in working together with people from the different countries in Europe for the kind of line of work I was doing. I was working with NASA, with Russian authorities, all over the world at the time. And being a Spaniard had, of course, the advantages we have as Spaniards, the disadvantages that we have as Spaniards. But we worked together. Technically, there was absolutely no difference what we could bring to the teams. And then what I found out is that the different nationalities, if you want to make that difference, bring their virtues to the teams. We are open, we are easy to work with. I said we are as technical competent as the rest. We are very imaginative. In situations of chaos and difficulty, normally people from the south of Europe can find easy ways out of situations that others have it more difficult to deal with. I've lived through those experiences, mainly when we were working in Russia. In other occasions, it's better to have people from other countries, more to the north, because sometimes they are more helpful in carefully organizing everything. But for me to be a Spaniard has always been something I was proud of, and has never been creating any difficulty for me, no matter where I have worked.
Thank you, Matt. Is there someone who wants to add something?
Yes, I would like.
Okay.
If the microphone lets me, I would like to add something. I guess the question was made more from a personal point of view, but I would like to answer it also from a company point of view. Hispasat has the pride of being an engine to the Spanish space industry, as I mentioned earlier, and we are proud of it. But also because we are Spanish and because we have we share language with Latin American, and we have a culture that is near to Latin America, we also have become a bridge of communication between Europe and Latin America, which is something we're also very proud of. So being Spanish, I think it's an added value for Hispasat, and we have an activity that is, I think it's beautiful. We communicate people across continents. We distribute contents also in the Spanish language to millions of people, so I think being Spanish is a reason to be very proud.
Thank you.
Can I add something, Ricardo?
Yes, please.
So I was born in Argentina, but when I had the chance to apply for the Spanish citizenship, I had no doubt. I studied, I took my exam, and I'm really proud now to be either Argentina and Spaniard. So I think this country is beautiful. It has a lot of opportunities and a lot of people with, as I said before, a low profile, no a show of people.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, now we have some other question here. Is not the yes, Carlos, you have a question. You need a. You can just shout.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, as we know, because Ricardo said it, Spain does not have a space agency.
For the time being.
And the Spanish industry is one of the largest in Europe, very well developed, has a lot of companies working in all sorts of space missions. So, do you think that not having a space agency is good or bad for the space industry in Spain? And where do you think that the space industry in Spain would be if we had a space agency?
Some of you, I mean, your impression.
Okay, up till now, we've had, you've heard about CDTI, Centro para el Desarrollo Tecnológico Industrial. They were managing the budget, the space budgets for ESA contribution mainly. They are also taking care of the European Union funds that, and all the programs related to the European Union, Galileo, navigation, Copernicus, SST, SSA, and so on. And this Spanish Space Agency would have to unite all the interests from CDTI, being the Ministry of Science, also the Ministry of Defense interests in space, also the Ministry of Transport in space, which takes care of Galileo, also the Ministry of Industry. So this space agency first has to go through, I guess I've read already in the press that they have to go through a roadmap of process of being how are they going to organize themselves, because they still don't know what kind of agency would it be. Would it be only handling budgets? Would it be capable of managing programs or missions? For that, they need more people right now because they don't have right now the personnel, the assets to do that, except for SST. But for the rest of the programs, they don't have those capabilities. So on the one hand, they would need more money, they would need more budget. So the Spanish administration would probably have to reshuffle the split budget from all over the ministries, or to set even more budget. So is that good for industry? It depends. If they devote a lot of budget for the space agency, they don't devote it to industry. So we look forward for a wise administration to organize this such space agency that satisfies all the administrations that are involved in the space activities, plus industry.
We need to wait for the next few months to see how everything develops. But I agree with Mar. I mean, it can be a big thing, or just, a medium thing. So, but I mean, my feeling is nowadays in Spain we are really having a very good moment. I mean, to start, a new company as you are doing, and because it's a sector that is going to develop enormously. Because it's dual, it's technological, and it's more or less, if you follow the main vectors that the European Union has designed, to try to reconstruct our continent and the world. One of them is definitely high technology, and the space is absolutely high technology. But just to finish, Carlos Entrena, on the name of the university, and the representative of the university, is going to give us a few words. So I give you the floor on my seat.
All right. Thank you, Ricardo. I would like to start with a big thank you to all our panelists for being here and for a great discussion. So please give them a big round of applause. All right, I'll be brief because we're way over time. I think I really enjoyed the discussion today. Thank you very much. I think this was a great show of what the Spanish space industry is, because it's one of the least known space industries in the world. I bet most of you didn't know that 70% of satellites in space have Spanish components, but that is a reality. And this overview, and this is actually a great overview because I've taken some notes: satellite structures, electronics, licensing, spectrum, technology transfer, ground segments, applications. I think the only two departments that are not represented here are humanities and human spaceflight. But we'll get there, just give us time. So I'm happy that we could have this panel. This was one of the main goals of bringing SSP to Granada, to showcase the capabilities of the space industry that we have here. And it's a pity that we could not fill this with a normal SSP with 120 participants, but the pandemic came over and we've had to reduce numbers. So that is one of the main takeaways I would like for you to get out of this: the capabilities that we have in Spain and the size of the space industry that is not well known. When everyone thinks space, they think immediately USA, Germany, France, Italy, but there's a lot of countries, in particular ours, that are present there, that enable all the things that we do in space and that usually are not recognized. And the other thing that I would like you to take away from this is that this is also a great example of the ISU network. Most of our panelists here are from SSP, spanning 30 years. So from SSP 90, when I was 1 year old, until 2 years ago. And this is also what you will get out of this program, what you will get out of SSP. You will become part of a network that does not care about age differences, does not care about nationality differences, does not care about what company you're working on. everyone will be so happy and so helpful to just come together whenever you call them and participate in whatever kind of event, whatever kind of project that you bring to them. This is also one very important aspect of ISU that you will get out of this program. And also, since you're here in Granada, you also will be part of the family in Granada. You will also get to enjoy some of the experts, some of the professional business that we have here. So also consider that part of your network going forward, and be willing to use it at any point. Just don't hesitate, call us up. I'm also an SSP alum from SSP 15, and make the best of it, because that's the best you will get out of this. And with that, I would like to close the panel today. I would like to thank again all of our panelists today. And I think now we're going to the Colegio Mayor for a small reception. So just stay together and let's all go that way. Okay, thank you very much.
Es muy simpático, no, muchas gracias.